for me, the most creative thing that I can do right now is run a business, which a lot of people don't think of as creative, but those of us who are running it know it absolutely is. You mentioned the programming and stuff. Like for some people, that stuff is absolutely creative.
Oh, it's so
Um,
creative. You notice that she just needed to stay slightly ahead of the people that she was able to lead. I hope you hear that. If you think you have to be a master in order to teach, you don't. Drop that lie. Hey, sales setters, welcome to season 2 of Beyond the Business Plan, where heart meets hustle and every episode inspires you on your entrepreneurial journey. I'm LeAnn Lyon, and together we'll chart new courses, tackle challenges, and celebrate those big wins with expert guests, honest stories, and plenty of joy along the way. If you love the show, tap follow, subscribe, leave a quick review, or join our conversation with hashtag JoyMinder, because your support helps us reach and inspire more entrepreneurs. Set sail on your business adventure with Beyond the Business Plan. My guest today is living proof that it's never too late to trade fear for freedom and let your creativity shine. She helps women find their voices, embrace their dreams, and women make art of their lives, drawing from her journey as a musician and vibrational healer. After silencing her own voice for years, she found it at age 33 and released her first solo project at age 50. The inspiring creative mentor joining us today, that's Jenny Elinora. Jenny, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey,
Happy to
Jenny.
be. Hi.
So good to see you.
You too.
There were some kind of ambiguous statements in my introduction, sort of intentionally, because there's so much goodness that has happened with you. Tell me what a project is. What project did you release when you're 50?
Yeah, my entire music and art solo project was called Project Elinora, as in Jenny Elinora, and it included well, it's still ongoing, really. It included the first two albums, EPs, and also a couple of singles and some music videos and some visual art. It and a blog even. That was a very, what I call a very unexpected blog. I didn't expect that to come, but the muses just happened. So yeah.
Excellent. And I'm just going to ask up front. I mean, everybody already, if you're like, what? That sounds cool. All the information will be below. But how did you release it? Where did you first release it? How did it get out into the world?
I love that question too, because I didn't really, it's on Bandcamp, which is, the best independent music site. But I should say, and I wanted it felt like more than just the music to me. So I released what I called an art site, which has each song and each album compiled into a different space. There's sort of like an energetic and visual motifs and everything like that sort of help to tell the story of this music and of the creative self that I was, my creative whole voice, as I call it, that what I was coming out as for the first time at the age of 50. As a whole femme artist. Yeah.
Wow. And of course, that's what we're going to dig into today on today's show. And while we're thinking about that, if you enjoy what we do here on the Beyond the Business Plan, jump on over to buymeacoffee.com/joyminder, and you can support this podcast by buying me a coffee. We'd love that, and we appreciate your support. So, Jenny, when you have okay, so let's go back to your journey. I'm going to ask you a question I haven't been asking all of my guests lately, and I don't know why. It's interesting how things kind of flow. But when you were little, and I'm talking about the age when you had, we're relatively the same age. Okay, so for our age group, when our parents would be like, "Come back when the lights go on," right? We were
Yeah.
gone. maybe not quite this young, but let's say 9, 10 years old.
Mhm.
I mean, we really had a lot of autonomy at that age, even.
Yeah.
What do you remember doing? What was your play and creativity at that point in your life?
The twilight hours are what I remember the most, actually, now that you're saying, when the lights come on,
Yeah.
because it was the time that was like, okay, you got to go home soon. It's magical though. It's magical because the light is totally changing. This if there's sun, it's coming from a lower angle, and it just feels beautiful out at those times. I'm saying it in the present tense, like I'm still there because I remember just feeling inspired in my imagination. That was the kind of play that I mostly did. Sometimes I think that I incorporated or included, like we lived near a woods at that point in my life, and I would go into the woods and play there and imagine all sorts of things. Um, but mostly what I remember is the feeling of the light and the freedom to be to use my imagination. So I think that's the biggest hallmark for me, and that I carry through to this day and wanting to help other people do is freedom to imagine and freedom to play.
So along with that, and I see behind you, there's like a little house, and I see some drawings. Now, if you're listening to the podcast, you'll have to come over to YouTube to see what I'm seeing. But can you tell me is about those things, those items?
Yeah. So that I didn't have a dollhouse as a kid, and I always wanted to have one. Um, the I'm actually building one, which is right over there. Like
Okay.
that's off camera. The one
Okay.
that I'm building, that's part of my creative outlets. And yeah, the other stuff behind me is stuff that used to be my mother's, and who was a big, huge creative champion for me. She was my first creative champion before I even identified what a creative champion was. She was unconditionally supportive of my creativity. I didn't value it or understand it as much till later in life, but yes.
Okay, so you valued creativity. Were you when you were little? Were you making up stories, or what were you? What kind of how were you using your creativity then?
Stories, poetry, songs. I loved to sing,
Okay.
body movement, like dancing.
Okay.
And not just dancing, but like movement and flow, creative flow
Sure.
with what the body wants. What else? I just multi-passionate, as they say
Sure.
these days. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then yeah, when I was around preteen, as often happens to women and femmes, and girls and femmes, I definitely uh, started to feel stifled and put down about the various creative things that I wanted to do, not by my family.
Mhm.
That's a bonus, but more culturally. So, yeah.
And then fast forward 40 years and you release your first project.
Exactly.
So there you
Exactly.
go.
I finally recognized my mom as an unconditionally supportive creative champion for me, and I got a couple of other ones as well. And it's been a journey from when I was 33 and first sang in public until my 50s. Uh, but yeah, once that started, it kind of couldn't stop. And now I'm just really excited to help other women do it faster, do it sooner and do it faster. And it is, like you said before, never
Beautiful.
too late.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I believe, in my faith journey, I say that God knew us before we were born, that He gave us a purpose before we were even created. And if we ignore that, that really is not living up to the purpose and potential that we truly have. And I do feel people get into their 20s and I just came across this recently. I'm kind of thinking on this one, but I really think people pick a college major. I could be a little wrong on this, but they pick a college major to either piss off mom, to please dad, or they're going for the money. Or somebody has told them to go for the money.
Mhm.
And yet, realistically, none of those are really great ideas for picking your major. Especially the first one. Especially the first one. Two things I told my daughters, you probably just can, don't do hospitality or education because I've done those. They're hard. The reward is there, but it's different. And one became a hospitality major, one became an education major. So we know which way. No, just kidding. We know how they picked their majors. No, I think though, eventually you reach an age, you were 33, where you start to say, and it's at least at 25 when our frontal lobe fully develops, where we start to realize, wow, there's something different. For me, I was 29 when I left teaching. And I thought, this isn't my life to be trapped in a classroom, dealing with parents that are bribing me literally to pass their kid when really their kid just needs to learn the materials. I mean, it's just weird. So, what did you do in college? What was your college thing?
Yeah, it's in some ways similar. So my major was language, and then started to go to grad school for secondary ed. So I was on the track to teach as well, and I noticed my lack of affinity for those systems very quickly, and got pregnant at the same time. So I had a good excuse to go ahead and get out of there, get out of that system, before I even really started in it. And then, but I still, teaching it is still in me. It's a big thing. Yeah, I feel like once you've started on that road, you have something in you about that. You can't not do it in
Yeah,
some form or another. I mean, we're
yeah,
doing some of it right now, right? So,
exactly.
yeah, so I ended up working with kids and after school programs. And I also then, once my own music voice opened up in my 30s, I very quickly was teaching music and teaching performance.
Oh,
And yeah, so that is what I did, at a local level and live level, coaching music and performance of all ages. I did kids camps and adult camps, and I did private lessons and everything too. I did that for like a decade and a half, along with being in a bunch of bands and stuff. And then, yeah, it was about a year and a half ago that it expanded into the creativity coaching in general, because I realized that, all along, some of my clients there were a few every year who would have
yeah.
this big creative awakening. So I realized, okay, this is where the energy is for me. It just flowed into doing it for more people, not just for music, like
Hmm.
for other create well, we are creative beings.
Yes.
So for other creative, outlets, like owning your own business or running your business,
Yeah.
or caregiving is another big creative outlet that we don't think of as one of those things, and art too.
Rabbit. By the way, you see me sipping my coffee here. Whyilovemycoffee.com is a real website, and you're going to find me on it. Go to whyilovemycoffee.com and see how you can change up your coffee, change up your life. And in 1 minute and 23 seconds, you'll see what it did for me. See you there, whyilovemycoffee.com. Yeah, it's funny because I think for me, it probably was pleasing my dad. Becoming a teacher was to please my dad. But that said, my dad saw in me that I had that gift, that I had that desire. He saw me play teacher when I was a kid. I think my mom did too. And I can't say that my mom, encouraged or discouraged me from being a teacher. So I don't recall choosing anything to be anti-mom in any way. In fact, my first major was actually computer science, which they had both encouraged me in when I was quite young. I sold a computer program when I was 11 to her boss. So she was very encouraging, and just feel really blessed that they encouraged that. When I got to college and I found myself sitting in freezing cold basements with a whole bunch of guys who didn't think I knew anything, that's where also I was like, you know what, I'm not sure this is where I want to be. Regret, sort of, if I'd stuck with it. This is in the 80s. Can you imagine if I'd gone into sales?
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't. But switched majors, went to math education. Really did thrive in it in many ways. It's just that my later experiences with it weren't really where I wanted to go. You fall into this. So you did you have a career before 33 of
Yeah,
some sort?
yeah, I worked with kids. I worked
Okay.
with kids in outside of school system programs.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I
So that
realized
was
that
your W-2 type of a thing.
yes.
Okay. And how
And
long did you keep that?
to some extent, I also kind of I did my own daycare for a bit, and I tried that a bit,
Okay.
you know. So I did own my own business at a pretty young age, I guess.
Okay. Very cool. And then you started doing lessons. That's entrepreneurial as well.
Yeah.
So really, you've had this entrepreneurial kind of bent weaving through things. How young do you remember having an entrepreneurial
Ooh.
inclination then?
Well, I mean, as an artist, you know, I was forming, before I was 11 or 12, I was, forming little super groups with friends and stuff, as, to write music. And I was the piano player and all that. And yeah, we would try to like see if anybody wanted to pay us to do a show. So yeah, I think it was pretty early. And artists are, if you're a professional artist, is automatically an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like it's
Oh, yeah.
that's how it is. I mean, I wish I had realized that
Mm.
when I was younger and when I first was able to like share my voice, because I think I would have approached things very differently in how I promoted myself, and how actively I went about getting gigs and all that kind of stuff. It would have been really different. But I have no regrets because now I am definitely in the place where all of my passions, all of my skills have come together in order to serve women in this way. All I have come together with my mission in life, which is to empower us as women to use our voices and to do the things that we are meant to do. You mentioned being in cold basements with a bunch of guys who didn't believe in you. If you had had some supports, create some champions from outside of you at that point, things might have been a little different in that end too.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying you should regret anything either, because you're where you need to be too now. But yeah.
Yep. Yep. And I love where I'm at. I really do. I think, I also woke up in the middle of the night running code and I'm like, this is not what I want to be thinking of at night.
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
did I miss that dot?
Mhm.
I mean, code is just so, so, so specifically and very precise. I was actually at a breakfast meeting this morning and the speaker said that at age 67, he got his first tattoo and discovered he was ADHD. And
Mhm.
so, and then he said 15% of the population is probably ADHD. And it doesn't mean we have to stuff it because ADHD people are the creatives. They are the fast. We have boundless energy. I say we, oops, did I just identify there? I've never been diagnosed, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I own that I probably am, but there's
Mhm.
nothing I would change about it.
Mhm.
Well, okay, so I it's a little messy, but I know where things are. I periodically pick it all up and then I move forward and make it like mess again, but I'm comfortable with it
Mhm.
and it's just fun, I think. What do you tell women who maybe come to you, they have a longing to be more creative, maybe but they're feeling maybe they're if it were me and I'd be like, "Yeah, but I'm too messy to be creative."
Mhm.
I mean, or something like that. I'm making something up here. What
Yeah.
would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, we are all creative. That
Everybody is. Absolutely.
literally, that's what being a human being is. We're
Yes,
creating our
thank you.
lives as we go
Yes.
along. We make decisions every single moment that creates one scenario or another, or another or another or another. And so that's the first thing I would say, is that
Mhm.
everybody is. And then also, I feel like there's I guess there's three things. So the second element is that just make a mental note here. It might take your nervous system a bit to catch up, but culture has told you that you're not creative.
Mm,
Dominant culture has defined creativity in this narrow box.
right.
Yes. And it's a lie. I mean, it's all lies, the better to keep us in line with in some ways, right? Whether that's conscious on the part of the powers that be or not, to whatever degree, I don't know. But But yeah, it's that's part of it. So then, yeah, the third thing that I would say is you got to find your creativity, right? Like for me, the most creative thing that I can do right now is run a business, which a lot of people don't think of as creative, but those of us who are running it know it absolutely is. You mentioned the programming and stuff. Like for some people, that stuff is absolutely creative.
Oh, it's
Um,
so creative. It
yes,
really is. And I loved that about it. Like
right.
it was so fun to be given a challenge. Can I tell a short
Oh,
story?
please.
In high school, right? In high school, I took a programming class, and it was a teacher who clearly knew very, very little programming because he's an older guy. I've been programming at this point for 10 years.
Mhm,
And I probably, and I had nothing else to do. I was a kid. I could program all day long. I had nothing else to do. So I got into the class. He assigned us something that he thought had to be a 600 line code, and it would take everybody at least a week to figure out and to do it. And I had it done in 1 hour, and my whole program was 30 lines long.
mhm.
And he immediately sent me to the principal for cheating.
Yeah.
But I had a champion. The principal, his brother,
Yeah.
brought me down and was like, well, just explain it. And I went line by line by line. I was like, I clearly knew it. And so they kicked me out of the class, gave me an A, and let me go to the computer lab for the rest of the year.
All right. Yes, I love that you named your principal as a champion, as a creative champion in that case, because, well, and then also on the flip side of that, the teacher was what Julia Cameron of The Artist's Way calls a creative monster. Somebody,
Ooh.
somebody who like tamps you down. And I had a few of those myself in the realm of writing, especially in college. So yeah, I'm really psyched that we're, these are the same kinds of energies, right? Like the and show that when we can, you got support then, and I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for that. You got support from the principal was like, okay, let's just investigate a little bit here, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So if we can all have that, if we, that's the world I dream of, is
Yeah.
that we can all have that kind of support for being who we are and understanding the diversity of our creativity,
Yeah.
um, is that it knows no bounds. So,
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. What we all have, if we're lucky, we all have 80 years or so, more or less. We don't take anything with us that we didn't come into the world with. And so, using that creativity, using that joy, that purpose, that drive matters so much more realistically than, than the almighty dollar that so many people chase.
yeah.
And, yes, we need to eat. And there's ways to do that. Some people are able to turn their creativity into their income. Other people have to, divide and conquer a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, let's talk about when you're 33. What happened?
Okay. Um, so I had a friend who is now my partner, um, who is a musician, and I don't know why, but I don't know why I happened to say to him, it just came out of my mouth. Yeah, I wrote a song last night. Because I don't know why I said that, because I didn't even let myself really know that. That's what I keep saying in all these interviews. I didn't even admit it to myself. I was that kind of disconnected from my creative dreams, I guess you could say. And uh but I blurted it out to
Mm,
just the person. It just so happens that would be like unconditionally supportive of me as a musician. And uh, so he's like, "Oh, show me the song and I will help you put some chords to it." And through that I started learning chord theory. Within a couple of months I also started learning about physical voice in a way I hadn't before, and then within a couple of months, I was teaching people. I was staying like one step ahead of them at that time. And it just flowed into that, all from one creative champion. So, yep, that it was a spark. And there were other things in my life that were getting me ready for that point. I had my mother was had explored starting from when I was a teenager, had been exploring spirituality and being whole herself. So I had that example, and I had gone on a few retreats with her, and I had started to go on some of my own retreats and everything
Mhm.
too. So yeah, I was getting ready for sure. But that spark of somebody just being there in my corner meant everything, and that's what I want to be for people too.
And note to anybody listening and being inspired by Jenny, because I mean, who wouldn't be? But you notice that she just needed to stay slightly ahead of the people that she was able to lead. I hope you hear that. If you think you have to be a master in order to teach, you don't. Drop that lie.
Yep.
What do you want to say about that?
I think it's beautiful what you're saying. And I would think once we are all, I say we're all creative because of that, we're all leaders as well, right? Whether we own it or not. So we might as well own it.
Mm,
And um and it's okay to, like even staying one step ahead it was a general phrase. There's also times when I was like, I don't know that yet. I'm going to learn that for you, or let's explore it together,
right.
uh why not just have learn why not let learn that's another sort of cultural suppression thing going on, that learning has to be this one way
Mhm.
or this tiny subset of ways. But yeah, why not take everything and every moment of life as an exploration?
Yeah.
it's,
I
it's
love the
it's super
concept
joyful
there.
that way.
Right. I love the concept I think I'm hearing is humility goes so far. And I think people relate to people who can say, let me think about that, or let me consider that, or let me learn that so I can,
Yeah.
or let's learn it together. There's so much value in that. And I think it's something that we have lost as a culture because we're so instant. I'm reading a book right now that says experience Jesus really. And it really gets into we've become a culture of instant answers, instant ideas, instant, instant, instant. And the art of and the beauty of pause is gone in many cases. So how do you bring it back? Is that something you address in what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably the core of everything is
Okay.
how do you bring creative joy, really?
Yeah.
How do we stoke that in our lives? How do we set up our lives in little tiny daily ways
Hmm.
to build that for ourselves? Because we can. One of the things, one of the titles that I've been giving to some of the talks I've been doing at summits and things
Yeah.
is how to build joy even in the middle of chaos or conflict or crisis. And because we are faced with challenges in our lives, we are faced with chaos, conflict, and crisis. And we have a cultural habit of assuming and or not letting ourselves experience joy during those times when we actually need it most.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope
Yeah.
I
And
answered the question.
you did. And joy is really more of a choice than happiness. Happiness is a fleeting feeling. Joy is more of a choice, and it's actually a fruit of the spirit as well. So important. I love that you brought that up because, of course, my company is Joy Minder. And speaking of summits, we have a summit coming up. And we have an amazing speaker coming onto our summit. Her name is Jenny Elinora. Hi, Jenny. We're very much looking forward to having you on our summit. And, in a summit situation, of course, it's not the back and forth. We just get to kick back, learn great things, take it into us, put it out into our own individual worlds. And I'm so excited that you are going to be part of that.
Thank you too. One of the things that I really like that I've been experimenting with, during these things is creating some kind of experiential moment
Mm,
rather than just giving a talk, right?
perfect.
So that I can guarantee there's going to be an experiential moment within.
Well, down below, you will find a link. Anybody listening, you're like, I got to do it. Not only can you connect with Jenny, find out all her cool stuff, but there is a link below to get your free ticket to the Beyond the Business Plan Summit coming up. We're super excited for it. We do this 3 times a year, but they're all special. They're all brilliant. Pat myself on the back there, but they really are aimed at helping people who are considering entrepreneurship and existing entrepreneurs because you can launch your business, you can be navigating the storms, and you still need a little bit of support. Even if you get to the point of growing your business, oftentimes that's a great time to circle back, take a fresh look at things. Now, what am I ready for? We've had amazing speakers in our past summits. The experiential part of what Jenny's going to offer is going to be very special, I'm sure.
I'm just appreciating it a lot right now.
It is. It's fun. One thing I love about doing this podcast is, first of all, as an entrepreneur, it's just really nice to talk to somebody else who is an entrepreneur who gets it. Because we spend a lot of our lives with people who think, well, that we're kind of crazy, that we're kind of nuts, that we're risk taking in a way that they never would. And that's okay. 59% of the population never considers entrepreneurship as an option, and only 6 to 9% of people actually are self-employed. And you mentioned earlier that you didn't even recognize that some of the things you were doing were entrepreneurial. Real estate agents often don't realize they are entrepreneurs. People who, because they think, well, no, I work for this brokerage. No, you don't. Yes, you hand them a chunk of your money. And I love my brokerage. Don't get me wrong. There's reasons we have to have a broker. I
Mhm.
want a broker. They
Mhm.
take all the risk.
Mhm.
But if you're doing the marketing, if you're finding the customer, if you're working directly with the customer, if you're doing the sale, you are an entrepreneur.
Yes.
If you're a 1099. As we wrap up here, tell me a story of somebody you've worked with that just really just got what you were doing, and maybe she followed your path, or maybe it was such a different path than what you took that it was surprising and fun for you.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's a few that
I
are
bet.
coming up. I'm like, which one do I pick?
Okay,
Uh,
pick two.
pick two. Okay. Oh, thank you, LeAnn. So the first one is who's publishing her book this year. Uh, after it was a book been in the works for 40 years. She came to me when I was still when I was still doing mostly music and performance, and she came to me for songwriting because she's multi-passionate as well. And again, that creative flourishment just kind of opened
Mhm.
everything up, and she got back to her book. So yeah, now she's doing that after 40 years. This book is being published. It's a beautiful book, and that is just inspiring to me to have been able to support her in all of that, in the logistics and the intuitive sort of connection with her creative core that she needed to make in order to keep moving forward on this thing. So that was beautiful and has been beautiful. And then the other thing, which I think is a nice segue into my gift as we wrap up, is this last spring, I realized coming into the summer that, and I live in Vermont, so the summers are short-ish. So I was like, oh man, last summer, the summer that I opened this new business, I didn't really play a whole lot. I didn't really do a lot of joy building things. I was just focused on the business. And it was starting to become a little bit, by the time the winter ended, was starting to become a little bit, which I'm like, I don't want this heart mission business of mine to be, I
Yeah.
need this, I need this to be a beautiful, joyful thing in my life.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a program for myself and my clients, which is called Everyday Play.
Yeah.
And I created a system to help us build joy through play, which is an overlapping energy with creativity, to help, and a very easy inroad actually into creativity too, very easy and quick. Yeah, to help us have what we called our summer of play. So
Ah,
the client that I was thinking of next took that ball and really ran with it. She was facing down. This is how she was kind of putting it at the beginning of the summer, a move, like a big physical transition, moving from one house to another.
Hmm.
with a lot of stuff. So she was like, oh, I have to move. That was her feelings about it at the beginning of the summer. By the end of the summer, she said a phrase that just made my whole body sparkle, which was, I've created this transition for myself. I'm creating this transition for myself. And it just absolutely warms my soul to think of that. She's got a lot of phrases that comes out of her. I
Oh,
could say a few more, but she, yeah, that one client is, yeah, like you said, really got it, really took the ball and ran with it, and her whole approach to how her everyday life is changed. Her
mm,
whole, it doesn't, on the outside, it might not look like it to anybody else, right?
I
But
can
other
relate.
than the fact that she moved,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I can relate. Just in the past couple of months, I stopped saying that someday I'm going to get my second degree black belt, and
Mhm.
I joined a gym.
Yeah.
And so I am in process now of earning my second degree black belt.
Mhm.
My daughter said she was starting to crochet, and I said, huh, you know what? I get itchy fingers, so I end up on the phone playing a game or doing something, and I could be crocheting instead.
Mhm.
And when you crochet, you can have a conversation
Mhm.
and you can listen to podcasts or sermons or whatever's your jam. It's a lot easier to do. But and if you want to keep your hands busy, we've always kept our hands busy. I love
Mhm.
fiber arts. And
Mhm.
so incorporate these are my incorporations into play, but I've also started with a planner. And part of the
Yeah.
planner asks, what are you going to do today to bring you joy? Or what are you looking forward to today? Or who do you need to show up most for today? And I often find the person I need to show up for is myself sometimes.
Mhm.
So,
Ah, beautiful.
so last words, somebody thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, but they're feeling a little trepidation or they feel like they can't take the risk.
Yeah.
Maybe they're making too much money. To
Mhm.
risk losing that to step into entrepreneurship, or maybe they're just afraid of the rejection. What do
Mhm.
you want to tell that person?
um Simultaneously with with making a decision right before the actual actions are taken to change things, to change everything. uh I've done a lot of work in the subconscious also this summer through neurolinguistic programming and stuff. I've gotten my master in that. And getting down in there into what your own creative purpose is, uh, and really you can do this with yourself in meditation. It also really helps to have some kind of coach or somebody to help you get to your creative purpose through meditations and energy stuff and visualizations and things like that, and subconscious explorations. That's
Yeah.
something that I would recommend to anybody who's thinking of that, is to get really clear on what the underlying, there's always something underneath it all. Like we say we want something on the surface, but there's always reasons for it underneath that we don't necessarily take the time, and we haven't learned how to take the time to get down into with it. I know it sounds pretty abstract.
No, I think what's coming up for me is I had a conversation with somebody recently, and we were talking specifically about burned out professionals who, again, got into a career when they're 20 for one of multiple not great reasons. Now they're in their 30s or 40s or 50s. There is an age of wisdom that happens,
Mhm.
and they realize that they're just not where they want to be. But if they're burned out, and they just jump into entrepreneurship without doing some of the deep work that I think you're talking about,
Yes.
the burnout will come with them.
It's just still there, yeah.
Yeah.
And the on the flip side of that, the opportunity to really that's being called if you desire something, right, you're being called to some other opportunity in your life. And so being able, there's just so many resources, so many coaches out there who can help with every sort of different angle you can imagine, uh, right, in getting to that place of what's your mission and what's your in what aligns with who you are, and then your business idea will grow out of that and become and be able to be expressed into the world as part of what I call, again, your whole voice, right? Because that's how I feel these businesses to be. If we're burned out, it's probably because we are not able to be our full selves and express ourselves
Mm-hmm.
fully in the world. So yeah, to get connected with that whole voice and create a business that really is you. Those are the most successful businesses anyway. We know this, right, LeAnn?
Absolutely.
Is the ones that are an expression of ourselves. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Jenny. This has been so much fun. We could just keep going on. I know we could. So I'm looking forward to seeing you on the summit. You are also, people you can find more information about Jenny if you go to resources at joyminder.com/resources. We'll have ongoing connection with Jenny there, as well as, of course, anything you want to know, just look below. You can get your ticket for the summit. You can connect with Jenny directly. It's all good. So thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, LeAnn.
And thank you, audience, for joining us on the Beyond the Business Plan podcast leading up to the Beyond the Business Plan Summit to unleash your joyful business potential. Remember, entrepreneurship is a voyage you can take with others, so find your tribe for the journey. And give us a like or subscribe or whatever you do on your favorite podcast or video platform to keep shining and aligning with your purpose. Enjoy Minder Solutions and come on back for our next episode. Until then, I'm LeAnn Lyon, your Chief Joy Officer, signing off. Keep spreading the joy, keep leading with heart, and I'll catch you on the next wave of success. Thank you for sailing with us, Sail Setters. Remember, your journey goes beyond the business plan. So keep charting your own course, leading with heart, and tuning in for more joy and inspiration. Find all the resources and connections in the show notes below, and your support means the world to us. So join our conversation at #JoyMinder or simply share your favorite takeaways in the comments section below. Until next time, set your sails for success. Hey, Sail Setters, are you ready to launch or refresh your business? Join us at the very next Beyond the Business Plan Summit for breakthrough strategies and inspiration. Visit joyminder.com/summit or check the link in the show notes for our incredible list of speakers and topics, and let's go beyond business plans together.